Secretary of State Marco Rubio is admitting things are moving in the right direction, but far from a done deal.
What we have is a better understanding of the conditions under which Russia would be prepared to end the war. We now have to compare that to what the Ukrainians and our European allies, but the Ukrainians primarily, of course, are willing to accept. If we can get what the Ukrainians will accept and what the Russians will accept close enough, then I think there's the opportunity for the president to have a meeting that includes both Putin and Zelensky to try to close this thing out.
With us now, Ambassador John Bolton, National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration, former U.S. Ambassador to NATO. Mr. Ambassador, good to see you. Rubio now has the job you used to have, the job you had at the last Putin-Trump summit as National Security Advisor. It seems to me as he's pretty clear-eyed about this. You agree?
Well, it looks to me like Steve Witkoff, Trump's personal envoy, came back from his meeting with Putin in Moscow with some kind of proposal, some kind of ideas from Putin. And I think Putin's going to try and take advantage of this one-on-one summit with Trump to advance his agenda, to put out, you know, a Russian peace plan or a ceasefire plan or something like that, in order then to have Trump take it to Zelensky and see if Zelensky rejects it. So it's posturing to see who can look like they're more interested in peace. I still think the parties are a long way apart.
There is this idea, right, that somebody is playing somebody here. Who is playing who depends on whether you are a Donald Trump fan or not. A White House official told ABC News that no location has been set and that President Putin must meet with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky for the meeting with Trump to occur, something the Kremlin has not been willing to commit to so far. That seems to me to be a much tougher position than Trump has taken with Putin in the past.
Well, I may have this wrong, but my understanding was the Putin-Zelensky meeting was to come after the Trump-Putin meeting. And I think there, what Putin will say is, sure, I'd be happy to meet with him, you know, if the conditions are right. I think Putin wants this meeting with Trump for two reasons. One, it legitimizes him. This man has been a pariah since February of 2022, when Russia committed unprovoked aggression against Ukraine. Now he's getting a meeting with the President of the United States to stand next to each other as equals and has to offer up nothing in return. That is the meeting right there as far as Putin's concerned. But I think he also wants to pull Trump back into his orbit. As you were saying, who's playing whom depends on kind of how you evaluate this. But I do think Putin now understands he may have pushed Trump a little bit further than he intended or than he wanted, and he needs to roll him back in. And that is the second part of this summit from the Russian point of view.
So you agree that Putin may not have been put in his place, but he certainly is feeling a lot more pressure and that he played his hand. I've always wondered about this. You know, you have to do something in order to get a meeting line of thinking. And that was the line of thinking that was used to sort of knock President Trump and to criticize him for meeting with Kim Jong-un. And yet we all know that there was that one summit where Trump looked and said, Kim Jong-un's not ready to make a deal, I'm out. And if anything, Kim Jong-un became more isolated and more threatened. I'm still trying to figure out why there is such a hesitancy, a warning, I don't know what the right word is, but this idea that Putin must give up something and somehow having a meeting itself is a reward.
Because I think internationally people see it as Putin gaining face. That he doesn't deserve this. He hasn't done anything to deserve it. He's been killing civilians. His troops have been killing civilians. And we treat him just like Mr. Putin. And it's one thing for Neville Chamberlain to see Adolf Hitler at Munich before World War II breaks out. It's quite another to have a meeting after it breaks out.
You think about what you just said, and I think it's really important to note how much more aggressive Putin has gotten against Ukraine over the past 6 months. We have a chart. Russia ramps up attacks on Ukraine since Trump took office is the dotted line you see there. And then it's like, wow. Now, part of that could be escalate to de-escalate. Part of that could be he thinks he's going to be forced to make a deal at some point, therefore he wants to gain as much ground as he can, on and on and on. But the flip side of your argument that somehow this legitimizes Vladimir Putin is the president of Russia, whether we like it or not, or the dictator or the strong man. He controls the world's largest or second largest nuclear arsenal. He is in a war with an American ally. At some point, you don't get to sort of choose, perhaps, who you meet with. At some point, doesn't Trump have to meet with people who may be unsavory to try and get a peace deal that I think everybody agrees is a good thing?
Well, there's a time and a place for everything, and this is not it. In fact, this is not a time to be pressing for Ukraine to meet with Russia either, because Russia's troops are still advancing. That's why Putin is so confident. I don't think Trump understands any of this, frankly. He said during the campaign this was a senseless war. He said, I think on Monday, that it was ridiculous war. So let's take the two sides, because these are the people he's going to have to deal with. Zelensky and the Ukrainian people, almost to a person, I think, believe that they are fighting for Ukrainian freedom and independence. Now, do we think that's senseless and ridiculous? Really? Certainly the Ukrainians don't. And on the Russian side, and I don't agree with the Russian position at all, but Vladimir Putin and a substantial number of Russians think that they are justifiably trying to recreate the Russian Empire. From their point of view, is that senseless and ridiculous? Again, I disagree with all of it, but it's not as dismissive as Trump has been of it. So Trump's getting into something he doesn't understand the gravity of it. He's precipitating this meeting because it'll be great press. I don't know where the meeting will be, but
you
it'll
seem to
be
think it's
surrounded by cameras and reporters. Sure. He'll be having the time of his life.
You see that the last time there was a meeting, you were there, Helsinki, I believe, for the Putin-Trump showdown. We have some pictures from when you were there. Have you seen? I've seen an arc, a real transition of how Trump looks at Vladimir Putin. He seems to be much more clear-eyed. He seems to be willing to be much more aggressive with him. You don't think that's changed Putin's position at all?
Well, I think Putin, as I say, I don't know whether he pierced the envelope intentionally or unintentionally, but I think he believes he should reel Trump back in and believes his KGB skills will do that. I think Trump is obviously displeased with Putin, but he's also been careful to say that he's not done with him yet, that I think he still hopes somehow that their friendship can be recreated, and like two good friends, they can resolve the war in Ukraine. I think that's completely unrealistic, but I do think that's where Trump comes out. I'm sure he'll have a few words to say to Putin to express his displeasure, but he still believes that fundamentally international relations are the personal relations between heads of state. And if he has a good personal relationship with a foreign leader, then U.S. relations with that state are good. And that is a gross oversimplification.
All right, I just want to get you on this. We saw that video of that meeting happening, that you were there. Does anything actually get done at these meetings? We always hear that things are agreed upon ahead of time, and this is just basically all for show, for lack of a better term. Could you have a meeting where there actually could be a real deal to be made?
Well, it's possible, but Trump's idea of a deal, as I think we've seen in many of the trade negotiations, is kind of a few headline pieces with details to be worked out later, which is why, in the normal course of events, meetings between heads of state take place after the deal has largely been cut. Obviously under the direction of their respective leaders, but to bring the top people in at the beginning really is often nothing more than show. Now we'll see here, but I don't think that really we should expect anything substantive out of this, unless, as I believe and fear, the Russians will come with a peace plan, and Putin will say, Donald, you know how seriously I want peace. I've given this a great deal of thought. I've tried to write it down on this piece of paper. I hope you'll consider it seriously. Will you please show it to Zelensky and get his reaction, because I want to move forward here. And then Putin gives the paper to Trump. Trump takes it to Zelensky, and Zelensky says, here are the following 18 reasons why I won't accept it. Who's obstructing peace at that point?
Yeah, I was going to say Zelensky rips it up and says niet, but that may be a little bit more aggressive.
That's a possibility, and he'd probably be justified.
Yeah, well, if it's Putin's plan, he'd definitely be justified, and then whether or not Putin lives up to any deal. Mr. Ambassador, it's always good to see you, sir. Clear-eyed on this. We appreciate it.
Glad to be with you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.